There's something that happens to a lot of us somewhere in our 40s or 50s. We start to realize we've been living according to a script we didn't write. Maybe it was written by our parents, by cultural expectations, by what we thought we were supposed to do to be a good person or a responsible adult. And that worked for a long time, at least to some degree, or at least it didn't feel like a problem we needed to address. But at some point, this timing is different for everyone, we start feeling it. This low-grade sense that we've built someone else's life. Maybe it's how we're spending our time. Maybe it's our relationships or the old career. That we're solving for everyone else's comfort and expectations, and somewhere along the way, we stopped asking what we actually want. And here's what makes this so hard. It's not that we've been doing it all wrong all of these years. A lot of what we've built has real value. We've taken care of people. We've shown up. We've been reliable. Those aren't things to regret. But the situation we're facing now is different. We've evolved. We're not the same person who made many of the life choices we're still living today. And that doesn't mean we need to throw it all away, but it does mean it's normal that we've outgrown some aspects of our lives and that it's healthy to take an inventory of that. Also, and I know this isn't true for everyone, many people over 50 are no longer having to put their own needs on the back burner anymore. The kids have grown, the career might be winding down. There's more time now to focus on what we want, what gives our lives more meaning. And the question becomes, if not now, then when? After all these years, it's so easy to get stuck on autopilot, feel numb about life, and just hope things will get better. But that kind of thinking will keep us stuck. Here's the reality. Time is finite. We're not 30 anymore. We don't have unlimited runway to keep deferring. And this isn't about abandoning our families or disregarding our relationships. It's not about becoming selfish or irresponsible. It's about recognizing that after decades of prioritizing everyone else, if we don't start building something that's actually ours now, we probably won't ever do it. And that's how regret gets built. So today I want to talk about 3 skills that I think are essential if you're serious about creating a second chapter that's actually yours. And without these skills, we risk staying stuck. Skill number 1, learn to start messy and imperfect. Most of us wait to begin something new until we feel ready, until we're confident, until we've figured it all out and we know it's going to work. And at some level, that sounds reasonable. But the problem is that moment never comes because certainty doesn't actually exist. It's more helpful to start from a place of courage than confidence. The confidence will come later after we've made progress. And at this stage of life, if we're going to reinvent anything, we have to be willing to step into the unknown and let things evolve as we go. As I've said in other videos, the path unfolds as we walk on it. It doesn't unfold just by thinking about it. The people who successfully build something new in midlife aren't necessarily smarter or more talented than everyone else. They're just willing to start messy. They're willing to make mistakes. They're willing to not have it all figured out. And that's hard for a lot of us because we've spent decades becoming competent. We built careers. We've developed expertise. We're used to knowing what we're doing. Starting something new means being a beginner again, and that's uncomfortable. We didn't think we were going to have to be beginners again. But if we can't tolerate that discomfort, we stay stuck in what we already know, even when what we already know isn't working anymore. So the first skill is this: get comfortable starting messy. Give yourself permission to not have it all figured out. The clarity comes from doing, not from thinking about doing. Skill number 2, trust your instincts, not the noise. When we're thinking about making a change, it's natural to seek advice. I'm sure we've all done that from time to time. We talk to friends, family, colleagues, we read books and watch videos, and we look for guidance. And some of that input is genuinely useful. But here's what I've noticed happens a lot. We're not always looking for informational advice. We're often looking for permission or reassurance or confirmation that what we're feeling is valid. And the problem is, other people, no matter how well-meaning, no matter how intelligent or experienced, don't live our lives. They don't wake up in our bodies. They don't bear the consequences of our choices. They speak from their own lens, their own fears, their own values, their own risk tolerance. And that lens might have nothing to do with the territory we're navigating. I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say something like, well, I talked to my brother about leaving my job and he said I was crazy to walk away from all the security it had. Or I mentioned wanting to move and everyone told me I was having a midlife crisis. And maybe they're right, or maybe they're projecting their own fear of change onto that person's situation. The thing is, you don't know, and neither do they. The skill here is learning to distinguish between useful input and noise. And that's harder than it sounds because we've been conditioned to defer to external authority. We've been trained to believe that other people know better, that if enough people think something is a bad idea, it probably is. But at this stage of life, your inner voice deserves more weight than external approval. Because even though you might not always be right, you're the only one who has to live with the outcome. You're the only one who knows what it actually feels like to stay in your situation that's no longer working. And you're the only one who knows what you need. So the second skill is this: trust your instincts. Listen to input, sure, but don't outsource the decision. Nobody else has the information you have about what your life actually feels like from the inside. Skill number 3, live with purpose, not guilt. This is a big one. A lot of us have spent our lives making decisions based on what we think we should do, what's expected, what keeps other people comfortable, what avoids disappointing someone. And the operating system under all of that is guilt. We move toward things that relieve guilt and away from things that create it. But here's the problem. As I mentioned in another video recently, guilt is a terrible compass. It's a backward-looking emotion. It keeps us tied to old obligations, old roles, old versions of ourselves that may not fit anymore. And as long as guilt is driving the decision-making, we're not actually building anything. We're just reacting. We're managing other people's feelings. We're trying to fix the past or avoid conflict. But we're not designing a life that reflects who we are now or what we actually need. Freedom in midlife doesn't come from trying to erase guilt or appease every expectation. It comes from proactively designing a life that aligns with your current values, not the values you inherited, not the ones you think you're supposed to have, but the ones that are actually true for you now. Guilt, or the absence of guilt, should not be your decision-making guide. And a lot of us have internalized the idea that if we feel guilty about something, well, that must mean we're doing something wrong. Or that if we don't feel guilty, maybe we're on the right track. Neither of those things is true. Guilt just means we're bumping up against an old belief system or an expectation we internalized a long time ago. It doesn't mean the belief system is still valid. It doesn't mean the expectation still serves us. The shift happens when we stop trying to fix the past and start building what's next. When we stop asking, what will keep everyone else comfortable? And start asking, what do I actually need to build a life that feels like mine? And that doesn't mean disregarding everyone. It doesn't mean being careless with other people's feelings. You can rebuild your life like a grown-up adult. You just don't want to equate being respectful, which is a good thing, with keeping everyone else comfortable. They're not the same thing. Purpose is future-oriented. It's about what you're creating, not what you're trying to avoid. And once you make that shift, once you stop letting guilt run the show, everything changes. So here's what I think ties all 3 of these skills together. They're all about reclaiming agency, about recognizing that even if we've spent years living according to someone else's script, we still have the ability to write a different ending. The thing is, most people don't regret the things they tried that didn't work out. They regret what they didn't try. They regret the moments when they knew something needed to change and they stayed silent. They regret the times they abandoned what they knew they needed in order to keep things comfortable for themselves or for other people. Regret doesn't come from failure. It comes from abandoning yourself. And if there's one thing I hope you take from this, it's this. You don't have to keep doing that. You can start messy. You can trust yourself over the noise. You can build something that's aligned with who you actually are instead of who you think you should be. And none of that makes you selfish. It makes you honest. Let me know if this makes sense to you. Do you agree or disagree? Please like this video if it was helpful, and consider subscribing if you're trying to build a life that's actually yours. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a great day.